So we've been talking as someone part of the heartfelt leadership team, I guess. We don't have really names or titles or anything, but we're a group of people that meet every week and talk about how we can make heartfelt more accessible to our church family and our MSIA. I'd say I go to Insight USM type of thing, but it's mostly MSIA. And I just want to thank the heartfelt leadership team, especially Jeffrey Morgan, but also Bree and Joan and Hal and John and Andre um, and Lori. So behind the scenes, we are all coming up with ways that we can support our church. Um, it's just beautiful. I've had a vision of this for a while as far as the aging piece, and Jeffrey's really come in with a clear intention of service. And I've been trained for a long time by JR about living in service. And so I just really appreciate Jeffrey's focus. And I just hear him keep wanting to create opportunities that we can support each other, come together in community. And even though we're far across the world or the country or even across town, that we can come together in ways like this. So you'll be seeing more of these opportunities. So why me? Some of you may know that I've been working in the aging field for a long time. Some of you may not. So um, I'll just give you a brief, why are you here? So I actually I took my first Insight training when I was 20. Martha, Tom, been around these amazing people for that long. And then I immediately went to work for Insight. Like the day after Insight 1 ended, I'm like, yes, this is where I want to be, and started working for them in St. Louis, and then came out to Los Angeles and worked for Insight there. Shared an office with Tom Boyer and Candace Semigran and Marianne. And really, I'd say I've learned from the best. From Insight, I went to work for Now Productions, so the production company, the production end of MSIA. And for 12 years, I worked in the basement of Mandeville, where JR lived, and edited every sat tape and videotape and tape packet that came out at conference, and probably listened to every tape that came out at least 5 times before it hit the shelves, before it hit the market. I needed to hear. I'm pretty hard-headed. I'd say determined, but hard-headed too. So I needed to hear the information a lot. But to me, my whole focus on aging in life was changed and formed in those years, and the focus on service and giving back, loving our community, and all the teachings for JR. So that's so part of who I am. And so sometimes I may talk about outer things about aging, like, do you need a walker, or where do you want to live? But all of that is so infused in the inner part of our spiritual journey here, and completion, and living in service. So from after 12 years in Now Productions, I thought, I need to, if I ever want to buy a house or have a family, I need to get some education and get a job that pays some. So I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree and master's degree in social work, and then my PhD at UCLA in social work, working with older adults and families. So the education is there, but really what I learned is out in the field. And I've been a hospice social worker. I've worked in adult daycare, so where like 80 people a day come in with Alzheimer's and they're cared for the day. I've worked as a program director for an assisted living, ran the memory care community there. I was a hospital discharge planner. And then so this is like the last 20 years, done all this, and also a private geriatric care manager. So you'd say probably geriatric care manager is my profession, and there's also a lot of us out there, um, which I'll talk about later, but they're around the country that can help you with things, even if you're not local. Uh, so I've seen kind of the ins and outs of aging. I've seen people at home. I've seen people in nursing homes. I've seen people in hospitals, assisted livings. And what I would say is that I in the talks on aging, I can um, I find that most people haven't been down this road before for yourself, but also sometimes people have never cared for someone who's aging or passed away, or maybe there's a lot of details and a lot of things to think about. And so as we approach this time, and usually it's when something starts changing is when people get interested in listening to this kind of thing. But we haven't been there before, so sometimes it can seem scary, overwhelming. So I like to let people know about the choices, what their options are, because what I know for sure is that you are going to do your aging your way as long as you possibly can. And then you might want something different. So I want to give you the information. So if you wanted to pre-plan, you think about it down the line. Maybe you're kind of in the middle of it now. Maybe you're helping someone else. But I wanted to give you the information as far as what's ahead, what's around the bend, as Johnny says, and how what I'd love if to equip you, empower you to make informed decisions, and so you can find peace, so that you can just get on with living your life when you know the details as far as what's ahead, and you can focus on the inner. Okay, so welcome everybody. Looks like people are kind of in here who are going to come in here. So how many, or if you want to raise your hand if you are aging. You raise your physical hand. You're aging? Okay. And right before your eyes, I'm going to be aging for the next hour. So watch out. How many of you are going to die someday? All right. Excellent. Sometimes people don't raise their hand about that. And how many of you play pickleball? Anybody? One? Oh, okay. I've got a ripe group here. I'm a pickleball. I think pickleball is going to change the world, make us age better. So, okay. This GR quote was calling me this morning. I'm just going to read it here. He said, "I made a spiritual promise to the people I work with in spirit, and every one of you know that I have kept my word with you. Even when you broke yours, I kept mine, and even when you break yours tomorrow, I will keep mine. Because I didn't say that I would do it if you would do what I told you to. I said, yes, I'll work with you unconditionally. That eliminates chaos in God. It brings direction, it brings completion, it brings the ability to endure all things. Jesus, the master, said, he wins who endures to the end, but not in those words." And one more is, I'm attempting to get people to think about the death of their body, because if you start to think about it, you might start to think about it when it's alive and what it's here for. And listen, the physical body is the only means in the universe by which we can open the door into divinity and transcend into God. JR. So life expectancy is certainly changed over the years, and our approach to it, and our expectations of what older people can do, will do, are changing also. And I think this cohort that's thinking about aging right now is on the precipice of this new way to age. Before now, people had thoughts about, well, when you get older, maybe you just locked up in a nursing home and, forgotten about. Or maybe some people would stay at home. But it seems like it was pretty basic. And now there's so many more choices available. we've gone away from the nuclear family, right? So people think, I want to go out on my own. I want to get away from everybody. I want to get away from my parents and live by myself. And so we don't care for each other in family sense, blood family, as much. And so we go out and live our life. And then at some point we start thinking, well, I really want community, and it's important to have people around. Um, so I think it's that this cohort is courageous in many ways, and so I think we are groundbreaking with what aging is going to look like in very positive ways. Okay, so I'm going to go over just basics. I'm going to tell you in a moment, just tell you what our future classes will look like, and where we'll take a topic and dive deeper into that. And what the general, like there's like in 20 years of aging, how to distill that down in, a couple points. But I think there's 5 main points to consider when you're planning for aging. And then we'll open it up for questions after that. And I really want to start the dialogue with you all. And what are you interested in? What concerns you? Not right now, but later. What concerns do you have? What questions do you have? What topics do you want to see? So we'll get to some of that today, and then after the meeting, you can also email us at serve@heartfelt.org and let us know what topics you want, questions, concerns, all of that. So we'll first look at Karen, if you want to share the screen. Oh, Karen, there she is. She's my beautiful co-host today. Thank you. So aging has when I think about all these topics, there's so much involved. And not everybody's going to deal with all of these at one time, but it will come up over the course of your aging, your loved one's aging. So these are some of the topics that we can cover in the future. These are the topics that I've been working with for a long time. So patient-physician communication, how to talk with your doctor, how to make your doctor your advocate, how to advocate for yourself, advocating for yourself in the healthcare industry. For example, when you're in the hospital, when you have a challenge, how do you advocate for yourself? Dementia and caring for someone with Alzheimer's. Heartfelt also has a Alzheimer's support group right now, which is run by Arlene Stepatat. Home safety, that's especially good if you're planning on aging in place. And how do you age in place? How do you get your walker through the door? How do you not trip on the steps? Where do you need grab bars? Elder abuse and fraud. As we get more vulnerable, sometimes we are more open to elder abuse and neglect. Caregiving for a loved one, and I'll put self-care in there as well. Where do you want to live? Do you want to age in place? Do you want to go to an assisted living? Does someone need memory care? Do you want to move into one of those neighborhoods that's like 55 and older that has a clubhouse and games and golf carts? Managing hospital stays, that is a big one these days with our with the healthcare the way that it is. Can be challenging. Hiring caregivers, if you're at home, hiring caregivers. Bucket list items. What do you want to do before you go? Retirement, what does retirement look like to you? What is it like to get off the hamster wheel? Or what is it looking like to you now? And if there's anything else you want to do. Being a trustee, handling an estate, hospice care, what to do after someone dies, grief, loss, and freedom, all in one word, GROS. Grief, loss, and freedom. So those are some topics that we'll talk about in the future. All right. So you guys doing okay? Good. Everybody out there? All right. So I'm going to just touch on the five main areas. Well, actually, I'm going to touch on the five main areas. But first, I'm going to tell you two other things that, when I try to distill everything, one thing I want to say is that that I find, and Peggy and I were talking about this too. She's worked with taking care of older people, that there's an inner and an outer part of aging. So the inner part might be what we talked about, the bucket list, your attitude, meaning, do you love the thing? Do you love it? Do you not like it? Your attitude, completions, things like that. And then there's the outer piece, which is, where do you want to live? I'm putting health on the outer because it's out of your kind of psyche, but so your health, finances, your people, where you want to live, do you have your legal documents in place? So there's two ways to think about that. Also, as we age, I find that there's five distinct stages that most people go through. There's independence, and that's probably like most of us on the call right now. You're able to get up on Zoom, but maybe you had some help. So there's independence. You're out living your life, just as you always have. Then there's interdependence. So someone is not able to do certain things, maybe lift heavy things. Maybe they want some help going to a doctor's appointment. They need help picking things up at the store. They need help. They need some help, but they still can live independently, maybe in their own house. And then there's dependence, where really you need everything. You need your food delivered. You need help bathing, dressing. You need someone to stand by assist when you're walking. Crisis management, it's usually when someone ends up in the hospital and figure out, can you go home? Do you need rehab? The crisis part. And then there's end of life. So as you see, as we walk through these different steps, there's different things, different needs, right? So depending on where you are right now is where we can focus the topics on. Okay, so the five parts of planning for your aging. So one is your people. Get your people, and in that is, where do you want to live? So there's this gap between, I'm doing fine, I'm living by myself, everything is good, and then you need some help, and there's a big gap between there and I'm dead, right? I'm gone. So usually, unless someone just dies suddenly of a heart attack or something, they'll be in that middle place. So you really want to start thinking about, who are my people and where do they live? Some of us in the church don't have kids, or don't have families that either don't have family, or blood. When I say family, relative, right? Do you have people to count on? And what we at Heartfelt want to participate in is being a family. Let's lower my hand here. Hold on a second. Somehow, yeah. We want to be part of your people, your support system, not only at a macro level, but on a micro level. We're having Heartfelt reps in as many cities as we can, and we can be a point of support or resources, or if you need somebody to sit with you at home for a while. So we using our church as that kind of community in addition to what other people that you have in your life. So get your people. And as a friend of mine said recently, after helping a couple of his older friends in their transition times, or helping them at home, he's like, I need to start getting younger people. So get younger people too, that'll be around and able to help you. Um, and we can talk more later, in other, that'll be a whole topic, like where do you want to live? So what are the choices, right? You can age at home. And then if you need a little help, you have either someone that lives with you or you can hire caregivers in. Or maybe you want to move to, there's some 55 and older communities, like you can have your own house or an apartment, and then you get a clubhouse, and you can play cards and things like that. Doesn't that sound fun? Now, when we're younger, we're thinking, hell no, I don't think so, never. But then as things like, hey, maybe you're not working as much at a job where you used to have your friend group, or you move away from your family, or you realize I just want some more people to hang out with. Friends, and the cards sound even better. But pickleball is a very social activity. So, all right, you got your friends. Then you need it's your physical and cognitive health. So if there's one takeaway I would say is that I've seen over and over again, it's just be as active as you can be. Just move. Once you lose the sit to stand ability, you've lost your independence. So, you know, I just like anytime you can move or squat. I'm walking around the kitchen, right? Before I go to the refrigerator, I do a couple squats. While I'm sitting down on the couch, I just do a couple extra squats. So just moving at all, take a walk. So your physical health, of course, important. And for me, when I was up until I'd say the last couple of years, I was like, it's fine. I don't have to do extra. But in the last couple of years, my muscles aren't as strong as they used to be. Like I was losing muscle mass at a higher rate than I was anticipating. So I'm increasing my weightlifting, increasing my working out. So anyway, physical health is a big piece. Moving is the best medicine, and exercise. All these. It's sort of like a magic pill, and you know that. But I'm just going to tell you again, just in case it motivates you to go, yeah, I'll just move a little bit more today. Next is your documents. And that's a whole, like weekend seminar right there, as far as legal documents. So legal documents, everybody really needs a power of attorney after you're 18 years old. So if you can't speak for yourself, power of attorney for healthcare. So we come back to that. Who's your people? Make them your power of attorney, and we'll have a workshop on filling those out. Actually, Arlene and I did a workshop at prom a couple years ago, and I think that's on video already. But we'll have these workshops recorded, and you can access them at your leisure and whenever you feel like, you know what, it's the day, I'm going to do that. Only about 30% of Americans have their healthcare directives completed, so don't feel bad if you don't, but it's helpful if you do. So power of attorney for healthcare, power of attorney for finances. So in case you aren't able to speak, your power of attorney for healthcare can tell the doctors what you'd like. In case you can't access your bank account and you need some care, your power of attorney for finances can help you out with that. And then there's estate plans with wills and trusts, which are really a legal matter. I have a podcast from the elder law attorney in New York, that Mark Alhoun, about powers of attorney or for estate plans. And then there's collecting important documents, which Peggy created this really cool one. I have a whole thick book that I wrote about, caregiving, but I have another book about where all the important documents that you need to give to someone that's going to be your caregiver, say, if you need more help. And let me see, I'm going to try to share my screen and do this. All right, Here's Peggy's awesome list. And we're going to put this up on the Heartfelt website. So this is a list of important things that my executor trustee people need in case you can't speak for yourself, in case you need more help, even after you pass away. So important passwords. You can send those to me. No, just kidding. Put those in a safe place. Important documents, important locations. So people know, where is my birth certificate, or where are my credit cards? Where are my investments? Your important contacts, so people know who to call when you need it. All this information that you've always had just in your head and your contact list. As we age, it's a good idea to have them in one place so that if someone needs to help us out, they know where to find it. And it's really a gift to your loved ones to have this all in one place and make it easier on them. Where your financial banking is, your investments, properties, where your automobiles are, what insurance policies that you have, what are your memberships, right? Where's your Facebook? What's your Facebook account password? How people are going to get into your Apple iCloud and get all your photos after you can't get there anymore. So you get the idea about that. All right. So that was 3, your documents. Number 4 is your finances. So it's one thing I see over and over and over again when people call and say, Cheryl, what are my options for myself or my parents? And one of the first questions is, how much money do you have? What's your budget? So having money saved, well, our society doesn't really, many people don't really save for a rainy day, but if you're still in the place of being able to save or invest well, it really does give you more choices as you age. And there's a website that we'll have up on the website that that'll help you figure out how much money will I need in retirement. Some people think I don't have enough, but maybe they're sitting on $1 million house and they do have enough, but they just don't know what the costs are going forward. So if someone's in assisted living, it might cost $3,500 to $10,000 a month. If they need caregiving at home, it could average $32 an hour. So if we know how much we have, how long we think we're going to live based on what we know so far, and what things cost, we'll be able to find it. We can make good choices, and you go, yes, I can go to Paris and get those chocolate croissants now. I don't have to wait, or it doesn't have to be on my, oh darn, I always want to do that, but I didn't do it. I'm a big believer in just do it. I live in the zone because of so many years working with hospice and older people and finding so many people. And you probably all know somebody that has saved their whole life, wants to retire, like, when I retire, I'm going to go travel. And then something happens to their health and they can't do it. So I live in this zone between saving for the future and living for today. So, I always ask myself, what if I wait, will I regret it? Right. So we took a month-long trip this summer to Europe with McKinsey. And it cost a bunch of money. I know other things I could do with that money or just save it. But I thought, this is something like, if I don't do it now, I will regret it. So we did it. And I came back and I'm like, that is off my list now. Like, if I died tomorrow, I would be clear. So anyway, I offer that, if you got the money, even if you don't have the money, we've all learned that we can create the money for what we want. So do it. And then 5th is your spiritual, mental, emotional health. And so that could include processing grief and loss, about transition, what retirement means. Polly said the other day, she goes, you just need to make a decision to be happy and make it happen. Asking for help. as we get older. I'm uh, enjoying being open to having people help me. I'll be at the store and somebody will be like, "Oh, can I carry that dog food to the car from you for you?" And before I would say, "No, I can do it myself." And now I'm like, "Yes, totally. That's wonderful. You could totally help me." So enjoying asking for help. All right. So I'm going to do one quick exercise, and then I'm going to open it up for questions, uh, and we can talk about whatever you like. But that's kind of like the basics of how I see aging. And um, I I think one thing that comes with aging and the changes is, do we like it or not? What's our attitude about it? Um, Years ago when I started, like, I'd sit down and I'd hear myself making noise. Like, where'd that noise come from? It's like I don't like that. But it was happening either I didn't like it or not. Uh, or now I've got reading glasses and I've got distance glasses, and um, my skin is not as tight as it used to be. Do I like any of those? Do I love any of it? So a lot of what I see is like loving it no matter what, because it is. I really didn't think it would. I wasn't considering that aging and those effects would happen to me. I'd see them in other people, but it was always outside. So just to look in the mirror and see these things, these changes happen to me is interesting. And so I'm accepting and loving it and going, oh, well, this is actually the time that I look forward to being at an age that I just, uh, I think it keeps getting better. Uh, and So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But I'm going to do one. I love this exercise, and this is on the MSI website if you want to use it yourself about aging. Okay. So often, I'm going to just read it as it is on the MSI website. Often the simplest tools work the best. I love this is one of the most effective practices for becoming neutral, uplifting places where you can let love lead. Step one, and you can play along in your mind with me here. Step one, whatever is going on in your life, whatever events are occurring, whatever changes are happening to your body or your mind as you age, whatever thoughts or emotions you are experiencing, whether you like what is happening or not, accept it as what is and say, I love this. You can add other words, but the essence remains the same. I love myself for doing this. I love myself for thinking this. Or if you find it in a difficult bind, you could say, I love this situation. Maybe just bring something that you don't really like about aging or transitions now and just say, I love this. Step two, if you find yourself responding to someone in an emotionally reactive way, you can say to yourself, I love myself for the way I responded emotionally. If someone upsets you, you can say, I love the way that person upset me. If you're stuck in traffic, you can say, I love being stuck in traffic. If you can't move as well as you used to, going through a transition, or you're grieving a loss, you can say, I love this difficult situation, or simply, I love this. Step three, what's surprising about this method is that it works even if you don't feel any love when you say it. All you need to do is repeat the words consciously. In other words, pay attention and be fully present when you say the phrase. Step four, try this practice for yourself. Make a statement of love whenever you can, whatever situation you're in. Observe whether anything changes inside of you. Look on this practice as as a fun exploratory adventure. Of course, if you don't like that idea, you can just say, I love this. So if in doubt, I love this. So I'd love to open it up to questions or comments. Anything y'all want to talk about? You can just raise your hand and unmute yourself. Jump in. John Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, Cheryl, I was just interested. You mentioned pickleball. I've kind of been thinking about getting into it. There's a court that's available. Anything about what you like in it particular?
Yes, that's a great question. So pickleball, if do you, if you know what pickleball is, so it's kind of a combination between tennis and I don't know, badminton, ping pong, and you play with on a small, like 4 pickleball courts can fit on 1 tennis court, and you play usually with 4 people. You can play with 2, but usually it's 4 people. So there's a lot of people in a small area. Play with like a wiffle ball and then a paddle, and it's a #1 growing sport. I know in the U.S., maybe the world, I don't know, but a lot of even professional athletes are buying pickleball teams, and there's a lot of action around it and interest. And what interests me about it is I've been playing, and it's super fun, first of all, and it's great for all ages. Someone can be 5 years old or 95 years old, and on the pickleball Facebook groups, you'll see memes that go like, well, this 30-year-old was, thought he was going to have to take it easy on this 90-year-old, but then he got beat by the 90-year-old. So any age can play, keeps you active. Many times you're outside, you're moving, and it's social. So those are all great things as far as what's good for healthy aging: social, movement, community. Um, yeah, those are the things. Yeah, I'm very interested in how pickleball can be a part of healthy aging. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you.
It's fun. Check out a court near you. Kevin.
Hey,
Hey, buddy.
hi everybody. Nice to see people here, and thanks for doing this, Cheryl. Yeah, one of the things I've had in the last basically 2 years, I've downsized from what most people would probably think is a relatively small living space, um, a medium-sized bedroom with a big closet and big bathroom with storage and stuff, to a lot less, and I really simplified. And to me, a part of that was preparing for the end of life. And even though I'm young and healthy, I'm still looking at that, because who knows when it's going to happen. So one of the things that I watched this show about Swedish death cleaning recently, and just like letting go of things that we're not leaving for other people to deal with. Sort of in the same line as making a list of all your credit card information and all those things that will make it really easy for whoever handles your estate. So I just want to put in a word for that. And last night I was thinking about this, and sort of that twilight thing in sleep. Sometimes I hear these fun things like sort of poetry or whatever. And what I heard last night was a line: "How to pack for the final trip where nothing will be needed."
Mhm.
Sort of like a way of looking, forward. Like, so
That's fabulous.
I guess most of that most of that packing is for the other people who will be around and still deal with my stuff, after it's over. But I see Yvonne there on the screen, and a bunch of old friends, and Nancy, and it's really cool to see everybody. And I just salute our health and vitality all the way till we ascend in a cloud of glory.
Mm-hmm.
God bless everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. I also see this as a space, if people want to, that we can talk about how our aging is going, or how, whatever, retirement, or um, whatever it is to, around aging. It's fun to talk about with like-minded people, if people are interested in that. Come up with ideas like downsizing and letting go. Joan, hi.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. I'm asking this question for myself in terms of future planning, but also I'm hearing from members of my community dealing with the whole issue of caregiving at home, and how do you find, how do you find? I mean, what I'm hearing is that people, this one person in particular, he's caring for his husband, and he was on hospice. Now he's not on hospice, so he's private paying for care. But his experience is that on the 4-hour minimum, that people that the caregivers are pretty good the first hour, and then the next the next hours they're checking their phones and they're not getting a whole lot done. And can you just kind of talk a little bit about that, and how you how it's possible to manage that?
Sure, it's a great question. So when I was first doing care management, 20 years ago, people would hire me. Say their mom's at home with dementia or need caregiving. They want to keep her at home because that's what they always said they wanted. So we hired, I'd get agencies involved. I would do supervision and do, unannounced visits and things like that, to keep them at home, kind of oversee this case. But what I saw was that yes, after a few hours, people run out of things to do, so that the people are just sitting in front of the television watching television, sitting in a chair, not doing much. And then a couple people started moving into assisted livings, and I saw the people that did that start to thrive more than they ever did at home. And so it really changed my vision of I would say before that, I thought home is a place everybody needs to be, but really finding a great assisted living, and there's some people on the call here that would attest to this, is an amazing option for, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people. So assisted living is another option. I don't think there's, I can teach you about good ways to hire caregivers and train them, and we'll have a whole workshop on that. But anybody is going to run into a similar thing, or what are the expectations of the caregiver there? Sometimes people just need a warm body, so it's fine if they're on their phone for a little while. But if you want engagement, like if you're going to just go 4 hours, usually caregiving agencies have a 4-hour minimum a day. So if you show up for 4 hours, you want to give them things to do, right? So if someone just is at a state of, say, interdependence, that they need some caregiving, I'll usually say, come at 9 o'clock, make breakfast, give the person breakfast, then maybe do a little light housekeeping, and then make lunch. So when the shift is over, lunch is ready, and then even make dinner. So when the caregiver is gone later that night, the person can have dinner. So being really specific with what the caregiver's jobs are will help fill those 4 hours. But yeah, I don't think there's a solution besides filling their time or considering assisted living, where there's a social piece, and then someone has their own apartment and can be there alone. And then when they need help, the caregivers are there in the community, and they just come up like, oh, you need a bath 2 times a week, or you need help dressing or bathing, whatever it is they need. They can send a caregiver up to the apartment and help then, instead of being on a clock, sitting there thinking, what do I do for 4 hours? So it's a great question. And I hope I answered a little bit about that.
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
to give you an idea. And um, I know this is like supposed to be an hour. I'm especially on this first one where there's a lot to kind of download. I'm fine staying longer, and people can leave at 1 if they need to, but we can stay longer and answer some questions. And again, if there's things that you need or think about or topics that you want, email us at serve@heartfelt.org. And if there's something you need, like if you need more information on caregiving before our next week, I'm happy to be a resource for that. And I'm also working at training local heartfelt volunteers so they can be a support to the local community to support other people. Thank you, Joan. Esther.
Hi, Cheryl and group. This is really terrific, and I so appreciate it. I noted that on your list of topics, there's nothing about possibilities for aging in foreign countries. I'm in Mexico at the moment, and I'm beginning to explore those possibilities. And I tell you, as our world gets smaller and, you know, more countries become interested in having people from other nationalities in their communities, it's a real option. So I'm just thinking, and it's a tricky thing to navigate, both the healthcare business and where you are and all that. And I'm just learning, but I thought I'd like to have that on the list. And I also want to thank you for that list that you and Peggy put together. I've been thinking I need to have like a total list of everything I need to gather in one place. And you just did it for me. It's like Providence shows up and provides for us. So thank you ever so much for that too.
Yes, thank you, Esther. Yeah, and thanks. As I said, I have a whole, like a thick book that's, wide space so you can keep track of things. And then Peggy, with her amazing skills, like distilled, like work that she's done, distilled it into those like 3 pages. So we'll have both of those as a resource on the Heartfelt page so you can access those. And it's I made a note about foreign countries, and aging is a thing around the world. All countries are dealing with this. It's, it's not new. As more people are aging and living longer, so we're dealing with this. But yes, and so as we get started here and find out the interest, like Andres offered to translate this into Spanish. So some of the topics are universal, and some are specific to the country or maybe even the town. But I think we can cover it all. Like if I don't know about it, we have other experts, even on this call or in our community, and that we can access. So I think one of the biggest things I want you all to know is that you're not alone in this. We have come this far together. Some of us a long time together. And so we want to do this as a community and be here for each other. So that's really an important piece. I know the whole Heartfelt Found team has been talking about this, and this is another way for us to demonstrate we're here for each other. We want to build this community. So to me, it's very exciting. And foreign countries, thanks for bringing that up. Connie.
Hi, thanks. A couple things. I would like to know, your thoughts about, and maybe this is the topic, about board and care, because in the situation I'm dealing with where my partner has had a stroke, he's not eligible. He needs more care than probably at home. He needs more care than assisted living. And so I'm investigating board and cares. It was sort of a depressing visit yesterday. But it's like the board and care seems to be a more social place than at home, which you just described. And the other part is, what happens when you run out of money or when money is limited?
Those are great. Yeah.
Those are my questions.
Yes. That's a great question. And so under finances, one of the big things to think about is for long-term care, for if you want assisted living or caregiving, those are almost all going to be private pay. You're going to pay for it. So insurance doesn't most often, almost never, but I'll just leave that open to sometimes, they don't pay for that. If you have long-term care insurance, a long-term care insurance policy that covers caregiving or assisted living, that would pay for it. There are some VA, some vet benefits called aid in attendance that can help with either care at home or assisted living. I want to say it's around $1,500 a month that they'll pitch in if you meet the requirement. So if someone has been honorably discharged, serve in the military at a time of war, they could be eligible for that. So board and care. So a board and care is like a regular house, and it has up to six people living in there. Oftentimes, most of the ones I've seen are almost all people with dementia, or sometimes stroke, but heavy, needing kind of heavy care. So people, the caregivers can see what's going on a little more. Sometimes assisted living community, if they're in the back or something, they don't have as many eyes on them. So sometimes a board and care makes more sense than a larger assisted living. When someone runs out of money, in the United States anyway, usually, sometimes people will move in with family members, but as far as what the country pays, government pays, they will pay for a nursing home. So that's really the option. If you have no money, people go into a nursing home. Did you have another question about that I missed, Connie?
No, talk just a little bit about, I think will be helpful for people to know what happens if you have a incident which lands you in the hospital, then you go to rehab, then you have you can stay in rehab as long as you're progressing. And if you're not progressing, we give you a week to find something else. And
right.
It's not an easy situation, but it's something that, certainly I didn't know. It's like Medicare pays for a certain amount, but they only pay if you're progressing. And it's like, okay, there you are, find another place. Maybe you get help. Maybe you don't get help.
Right. Pin that for a second. And I remembered that also with I talked about just our healthcare system in general right now, even with people with dementia, Alzheimer's, usually the neurologist doctors just say, well, you have dementia, if they tell you. Maybe sometimes they don't even tell you, but it's like goodbye and good luck with that. And there's no support system that's set up. So that's another thing that we can help, and we'll have seminars on that. So yes, this is one of the biggest areas that it's difficult on my heart, I will say, because this is what happens when people go into a hospital on an urgent basis, and then all the medical team is doing, I'm going to talk in generalities, so if there's like specifics of, well, not this time, I'll just say most of the time, the medical team is looking for, how can we put a Band-Aid on the problem they came in with? If you came in with a broken arm, we're going to fix that broken arm. But that person might have other medical conditions that need to be looked at and solved that may have caused that broken arm. Why did the person fall? Are they having low blood pressure and they passed out? But the medical team's probably not looking at that. They're just going to fix your arm. And then after they fix your arm, they're going to say, it's time to move. It's time to get out, of the hospital. We're going to discharge you. And sometimes that'll be at 5 o'clock on a Friday. And your family or you are going like, I don't know what to do. Say it's a broken hip and you need some rehab and you need a little bit of help. Okay, we're going to be discharging you. usually you will not get an option. They will just say you need to go to rehab. You need to go to a nursing home. And I want to tell you that that will almost always happen, and almost never does someone actually have to go to rehab. The nice thing is Medicare pays for a nursing home. If you're coming from a 3-day hospital stay and then go to a nursing home, they will pay up to 100 days. It's like the first 30 days or 100%, and then it goes down from there. But they'll pay. But what happens in a nursing home is that people lay in bed for 23 hours a day, and maybe they'll have 1 hour of rehab 2 to 5 days a week. But they're laying there and they won't let them get up because nobody wants them to fall on their shift. Even in the hospital, people will be laying in bed. So they're losing strength, they're losing motivation, their nursing home's loud, they can't get sleep and get healed. So there's a time and a place for a nursing home, but I want to let you know that just because the nursing team is saying, or the doctor saying you need rehab, you might not, because you can often go home and get physical therapy at home. You can be in your bed, you can be in your cozy stuff that you can actually heal from. But if you do need help there, home health is covered by Medicare and they will cover physical therapy at home. But if you need caregiving and can't afford that, that would be a reason to go to a nursing home. So if you don't have anybody to help you to the bathroom or help you dress and bathe while you're rehabbing from this hip, and pay for caregiving at $35 an hour, then that would be a good reason to go to a nursing home and take advantage of that. We'll have a whole talk about that, and I actually have videos on all these topics on I have a membership site, but I'm going to be sharing that with the Heartfelt team. And one of the whole videos is on managing hospital stays. That's a great question. And the other piece I'll give you is if you're in if someone's on Medicare and they are at the hospital and you or your loved one that you're helping there, you don't feel like they're ready to discharge. You're like, look, this person's not okay yet. They need more time, or you haven't solved this problem yet. Keep in your pocket that every state has a quality control board for Medicare. So if you tell the team at the hospital, I'm going to be appealing this discharge, appealing the discharge, it's too fast, they're not ready. Then if that appeal goes through, if you call the board and say, I'm going to appeal it, the hospital has to provide all the hospital records to this outside agency to say, this is why we think he's fine to discharge. And then they look at it and say, are they really ready for discharge? Sometimes that buys you a day or two just in that process. Plus the hospital does not want to do that. They would rather they'll all look at you differently if you go, I'm appealing discharge. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Actually, you could stay another day. We'll look at some other things. So that's a great key, because so many times, it's 5 o'clock in the evening or on a Friday or Saturday, and we're going to discharge your loved one when you don't have any discharge plan set yet. You go, no, I'm going to appeal the discharge. It's not time. So those are some good keys. I hope that helps. Tom Boyer. Hi, buddy.
Hey there. First of all, I'm finding this book useful. Do you know that one?
Built to Move.
Yeah.
Is it about pickleball?
No, why?
No, I haven't seen it. Well, I'm going to write that down. Built to Move.
And you covered it. It's like, do something. Very, in depth, really do something. And just for fun, I move a lot. I love to move, but my hip replacement, my doctor doesn't want me playing pickleball. Interesting. And I have access to that, but he doesn't want me jumping or running. So I do what do you call it? Mini trampoline and golf and regular the large muscle groups. But question, so obviously this is karmic, because this is my mother and now I have another one in my life doing this. Do you have any tips when it seems like almost no matter what you do, they're unhappy. Living at home, bringing people into help, they're unhappy. Assisted living, they're unhappy. Move them back. The current one moved out of assisted living back to home. And fortunately, I'm not the family that's there, but just, resistant to any sort of assistance. Have you had folks like that?
95% of folks are like that. What I'll say is I see over and over again. I used to think, oh, they could use some help and I could help them and I could make their life better. And I have all kind of solutions, right?
I don't want any.
And they don't want it. They want to do it their way, even though it looks like, wow, looks pretty bad. Like if you would just take my advice, I could help you. It would mean so much to me to help you. And the person's like, no, they don't want to do it. And what I find is that time after time, when I share that with caregivers, that what I think is, if you make the offer, if you'd like some help doing whatever, I'd be happy to help you. So you make the offer, because sometimes when people get older, they think maybe they need to move or maybe they need to do something, but they can't think of through all the steps, or they cannot even imagine it happening because they can't do it themselves. So sometimes it's like, look, if you want to move to assisted living, which most people don't want to do because they don't know how amazing it can be. But if you want to move to assisted living, all you have to do is just get in the car and go there. And I'm going to have a moving crew come in and move all your stuff and set it up in your new house. And that's all you need to do. And so if you offer that, most people are still going to probably say no before it's time, because there is a time that will work. But before that, it's enough that you made the offer. And then the job as the caregiver, so I call you caregiver in that situation, is to observe and to think of you have a plan B or plan Bs in mind, because someday they're going to need your help. And so you go, well, I know the local assisted livings. Maybe I have a geriatric care manager nearby. I can call Cheryl. She's gonna, she'll do some guiding, whatever it is. Like, I have some plan Bs, and so you can sleep well and you can take yourself off the hook. So knowing that that person has the right to make their own decision, as long as they have capacity, so they don't have dementia, memory problems, cognitive problems, they can understand the consequences of their behavior. As long as they have capacity, then they get to make their own choice, and they will. I mean, after doing this for 20 years, just recently did I really get that solidified. I told you I was a little hard-headed, but determined. Because I thought, well, it's just that person, or it's just that person, it's just that person. But then it's like everybody. But when that person can no longer do it their way, it will become obvious. They'll be on the floor. There'll be a look of vulnerability in their eyes, and they will ask for help. They'll call 911. They'll do things that you're like, wow. You'll notice something and you're like, things have changed. And that's the time you can go, great, I'm here. I got you. And then sometimes they get fixed up and they go back home, and they're feeling better because they don't need any help anymore. And that's just, I see it in most, I see it in most people. And sometimes it takes people longer to get to that point of, I've fallen and I can't get up than others, but yeah.
Well, that was helpful. Someday they will need help. That'll help in this situation. I can help.
Yes.
Family. But
yes.
My mom's no longer alive, but the doctor would not release her from the hospital at one point without, he said, I can't send her home. And so I was making arrangements and did make arrangements for assisted care. But just for your bank of stories, while I was doing that, I get a phone call. Mr. Boyer, yes. Thomas Boyer? Yes. Is your mother Deborah Boyer? Yes. And I thought the next words were going to be, she died.
Mhm.
And, but the next words were, this is the Westlake, Ohio Fire Department. And we were on full alert along with a SWAT team because your mother had convinced us that she had been kidnapped until she gave us the address, which was the hospital that she was in, that the
Mhm.
doctor did not release her from. So, you know, sometimes
Yeah,
these
that's
things
great.
you
Oh,
get, and
people
then,
are so resourceful when you think, oh, that poor person needs my help. And then they just come up with amazing ways to help themselves. And then you know it's not time yet to help because they're finding a way.
so
Yeah,
I
that's a good story.
got her into the home. She hated it, by the way,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is the, you know, a really sad part because there really wasn't, as far as I could tell, there wasn't anything else to do. We had her evaluated for her own room. No, she can't do that. This, that, the other. You know, I did what I could, and friends of ours that some of whom you know did what they could. And
Mhm.
just a very kind of sad situation. And one day she called me, says, I want to go home. And home was back in Ohio. And I said, Mom, you can't do that. You need help to do that. And she said, I know I can't do that by myself, but I want to go back home. And there were loads of circumstances that just didn't allow that. So that's, you know, it's like sometimes even though they know they need some help, they don't like what they're getting or what appear to be the only options. So,
Right. Right. Yeah, Tom, I I hear, and sometimes it can be heartbreaking if, just looking at the situation on the surface, like, wow, she was unhappy. She could have had a better place. I could have helped her, or whatever that is. And uh, I just have to trust that the person is working whatever it is out for themselves. It's a situation. It's not yours. You go home to your house. It's not yours. It's her life. Um, and sometimes it looks on the surface like it would be challenging or not ideal, but somehow you know they have chosen that.
yeah.
And you know it's but it's hard. It is nice to just allow people choices. I mean, I've had people in the hospital, discharged to a nursing home, are like, oh, we're going to get you to this amazing assisted living, and then they end up dying like the day before they
Mm-hmm.
get to this amazing assisted living. I'm like, oh, if you could have just held on, you could have had an amazing life. It's like, well, who am I to say?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, so I've learned to, offer people choices, put in the light, trust it's between them and God. Um, yeah. And people are very independent. I learned that, a long time ago with my grandmas, and that's what started me onto this road. When my one grandma lived alone because my grandpa died about 6 months after they retired to Florida. She lives alone. And then she keeps wanting to live alone. And my dad's like, oh, you can't drive the car. So he took her car away. When I went to visit, there's a car in the driveway. I'm like, grandma's, whose car is this? And she said, I rented it.
Yep.
You could barely see over the steering wheel. And
Yep.
then, she'll, oh, okay, we're going to get you an emergency response necklace. Well, she doesn't wear it, and she falls in the bathroom, breaks her arm, but she lays there for 24 hours before someone comes and take her to the hospital. She's got a cast on her right arm, but she needs to still get out to the store and do stuff. So she goes to her car, waits for someone to come by and says, can you start the car for me and put it in gear? You drive to the store, you get there. Hey, can you put my car in park and give me the keys? And that's how she got around. I'm like, dang, that's impressive. And then my dad's like, okay, you can't live at home anymore. You're not safe. We're going to move you to an assisted living. And somehow she cooperated for a minute. Well, about 2 weeks later, she called her church group and had them move all her stuff back home. So that was the last time he tried anything. So I just learned, like, people are they're resourceful, they're going to do it their way. And mine is to just give them options. You know, these are the pros and cons. This is how much it costs. This is what it might look like, etc. And then they're given options. That's another thing I'll say about a hospital stay, or just doctors in general, is that often the doctors won't give you options. They'll be on a treatment plan, and they're doing things, and they don't really want you to question. Like, if you can find a doctor at the hospital, they certainly don't want to answer your questions. And so, you know, to learn to be an advocate, to question things, and even as far as putting someone in hospice, like, if they don't want treatment anymore, it's like, look, it's not curable. He doesn't want that quality of life to go to another chemo round. Just wants to come home and be at peace, and be in hospice and die at home and have his loved ones around him. And still to this day, usually the nursing staff or the doctors will not bring up hospice until you bring it up. You go, hey, what about hospice? And they're like, oh, well, now that you ask, and then they get the whole team in place, but they won't offer that often. So anyway, it's another thing, just about learning to advocate for yourself and ask about choices. And the other thing is that often the hospital staff or nursing will only offer options that are covered by Medicare. So if you go, well, what if I have the money to pay? And they'll kind of look at, like, what, you do? Or you'd want that? So sometimes we got to help the medical staff think outside the box. That's what I got on that. Peggy?
First of all, I couldn't figure out how to do the raise your hand. So I really relate to what you just shared. You know, I cared for my mom and my aunt and uncle, and both of them went through what Tom was describing, you know, particularly my mom, very like, I don't want this, I don't want this. What I came to realize in hindsight was that I think, you know, one of the things that's hard for seniors in terms of accepting help means to them, you know, I can no longer be independent. And that brings up my mortality, that, gee, I'm not going to be here forever. And it's hard for them. It was hard for my mom. You know, my aunt and uncle was in a different situation. So that's one of my observations out of experience. And the other thing, I just wanted to comment on the form, Cheryl, that you showed, that I did that as a template in Microsoft Word. So you can download that and customize it for yourself. It's not a PDF. So that's all.
That's great. Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah.
Thank you for that amazing resource. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And thanks for doing this, Cheryl. I just, you know, in my experience, so well needed. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Love to see you again if you're interested, and let us know what you want to talk about. And I love you. We'll have lots of information up soon on the Heartfelt website, heartfelt.org, and then you can reach us at serve@heartfelt.org. My website is myagesage.com. There's some resources there, podcast, blog, things like that. So anyway, I love you. God bless you.
You have a date for the next one?
Oh, so it'll be every Tuesday at noon. We'll send out a new link, and then that link will be good for now on, but we're gonna do them every Tuesday at noon.
Okay.
Jump on when you can.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you,
Thank you.
Karen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
God bless you.
Thank you
I
all.
love you, Alicia.
Bye.
It's good to see you,
God bless you.
Alicia.
Yes,
Have
God
a
bless you.
topic, Cheryl, for next time, or will that be decided later?
What'd you say, Yvonne?
Do you have a topic for next week?
I'm gonna see what people like. Send in your topics, and then we'll send out an email about what the topic is going to be. If you have any ideas or desires, we really want to come from the community as far as what you want to talk about. Because as you can see, there's lots of topics. So
Yeah,
whatever people want.
thank you so much.
All
I
right.
love you.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.
Bless you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
All right. Love you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, honey.